Gaining insight into how external circumstances impact our emotional states is a fundamental aspect of personal growth and emotional intelligence. It's common for us to attribute our feelings, especially those of anger, sadness, or frustration, to external factors such as the actions of others or specific situations we encounter. We might blame a bad day at work on a colleague's remark or our mood on the weather. This tendency to look outward for the causes of our inner emotional experiences is deeply ingrained in many of us. This realization that we often allow external events to dictate our emotions is a critical first step in taking control of our emotional well being. It's an acknowledgement of the power we have inadvertently given to our environment and the people in it over our internal state. By recognizing this, we begin the process of reclaiming that power. Understanding the influence of external circumstances goes beyond merely identifying them as triggers. It involves delving deeper into why and how these triggers affect us. For example, why does a specific comment from a colleague lead to feelings of anger? Is it truly the remark itself, or does it touch upon a deeper insecurity or unresolved issue within us? Furthermore, this understanding challenges us to question the automaticity of our emotional responses. It prompts us to consider whether our reactions are proportionate to the actual events or if they are amplified by past experiences, preconceived notions, or unmet expectations. Preconceived notions or unmet expectations. This reflection can reveal patterns in our emotional responses that may be disproportionate to the triggering events, indicating areas where we might be overly sensitive or carrying unresolved emotional baggage. When we concentrate intently on the sources of our negative emotions, such as specific situations, individuals, or memories that upset us, we unintentionally direct our mental and emotional energy towards these elements. This process of focusing our attention acts as a conduit, funneling our energy into whatever is holding our interest. In doing so, we end up empowering the very issues or people that are the cause of our distress. This act of focusing can be likened to shining a spotlight on these negative aspects, inadvertently magnifying their presence and impact in our lives. This transfer of power through focused attention is significant because our energy is a limited and precious resource. When we allocate this resource towards negative influences, we deplete the energy available for positive, constructive pursuits. For example, obsessing over a past conflict with a friend or worrying about a future event not only drains our current energy reserves, but also detracts from our ability to engage in more fulfilling activities or thoughts. Moreover, this focus on negative causes can create a feedback loop. The more energy we give to these issues, the more entrenched they become in our consciousness and the more influence they have over our emotional state. Over time, this can lead to a persistent negative outlook where we become more inclined to notice and dwell on the negative aspects of life rather than the positive. Additionally, the principle that where we place our attention is where we place our energy holds significant implications for our overall well being. By continuously focusing on negative aspects, we not only reinforce their presence in our lives, but also shape our reality based on these focuses. This can lead to a skewed perception of the world where we are more attuned to negativity and less able to recognize and appreciate positive events and experiences. To counteract this, it's important to cultivate a practice of consciously directing our attention. This might involve mindfulness techniques that help us become aware of where our focus is at any given moment and actively shift it towards more positive or neutral subjects. It can also involve deliberately engaging in activities that we find uplifting or nourishing, thus redirecting our energy towards growth and healing. Living in a constant state of survival significantly impacts our overall well being and hampers our capacity for personal growth and creativity. The state is characterized by continual vigilance and a readiness to respond to perceived threats. When we are in this mode, our body and mind are primed for immediate reaction to fight, flee, or freeze. as a means of self preservation. This instinctual response, while crucial for actual physical danger, becomes counterproductive when triggered by everyday stressors or psychological fears. In survival mode, our body's physiological responses are geared toward immediate action. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood our system, preparing us for quick response. This heightened state of arousal narrows our focus to potential threats, reducing our ability to see the broader picture or engage in long term planning. The fight or flight response also diverts energy and resources away from non essential functions like digestion, immune response, and higher order thinking processes crucial for creativity and problem solving. Moreover, living in this state of constant alertness creates an environment where learning, openness, and vulnerability are significantly diminished. The brain's prefrontal cortex, responsible for complex thinking, decision making, and learning, becomes less active. We become less capable of thinking clearly, reflecting, or making considered decisions. Our focus is on immediate survival rather than on growth or future planning. This survival state also affects our emotional health. It can lead to heightened anxiety, irritability, and a general sense of unease. Over time, remaining in this state can contribute to long term health issues such as chronic anxiety, depression, and even physical ailments like hypertension and heart disease. The continuous stress response can exhaust the body, leading to burnout and fatigue. Furthermore, a constant survival state impedes our ability to form healthy relationships. When we are always on edge, it becomes challenging to establish trust and emotional connections with others. Our defensive mechanisms are heightened, and we may perceive threats where none exist, leading to conflicts and misunderstandings in our personal and professional relationships. For individuals caught in the grips of persistent fear, anxiety, or depression, the concept of introspection and self reflection can be particularly challenging. These emotional states often create a mental barrier that makes the idea of sitting down, closing one's eyes, and delving into the inner workings of the mind seem not only daunting but almost unfeasible. This difficulty is compounded by the nature of these emotions, which can skew perceptions of reality and self efficacy, leading to a sense of helplessness or hopelessness. In such states, the mind is often preoccupied with negative thoughts and worst case scenarios. Fear and anxiety can create a constant sense of impending doom, while depression can make the world seem devoid of color and possibility. The idea of turning inward and confronting these swirling, often dark thoughts can be overwhelming. For someone in the throes of such emotions, the suggestion that their thoughts have the power to shape their future can seem far fetched and implausible. The overwhelming nature of their current emotional state can overshadow the belief in their ability to affect change through mere thought. Moreover, these mental health challenges often come with a physiological component. The body's response to prolonged stress, fear, or sadness can include fatigue, restlessness, or a general sense of being unwell. These physical sensations can act as additional barriers to the practice of going within, as they can make sitting still and focusing inwardly seem even more unattainable. The state of constant fear, anxiety, or depression can also lead to a vicious cycle where negative thoughts reinforce negative emotions, which in turn lead to more negative thoughts. This cycle can create a mental environment where negativity is the default setting, and any attempt to break free and envision a different, more positive future can be quickly quashed by a resurgence of pessimistic thinking. Furthermore, these states can lead to a feeling of disconnection from one's inner self. People may feel estranged from their thoughts and emotions, viewing them as enemies rather than aspects of their being that they can understand and control. This sense of estrangement can make the idea of introspection seem not only daunting but also undesirable. Each instance where we catch our thoughts wandering to past occurrences or future concerns, and then deliberately refocus on the present represents a significant victory in the realm of self awareness and mental control. This process of redirecting our attention to the here and now is a profound exercise in mental discipline and mindfulness. It's an assertion of the mind's dominance over habitual thought patterns that are often rooted in past experiences or anxieties about what's yet to come. This act of returning to the present moment is more than just a mental maneuver. It's a demonstration of the mind's remarkable ability to regulate and influence the body. When our thoughts stray into regrets of the past or fears of the future, they often trigger corresponding physical responses: stress, tension, changes in breathing, and heart rate, among others. By consciously steering our thoughts back to the present, we counteract these physical reactions, promoting a state of calm and relaxation in the body. Furthermore, this practice of refocusing on the present is essential in releasing stored energy, the kind that accumulates from prolonged periods of stress or emotional turmoil. Often, this energy remains trapped in our body, manifesting as various physical symptoms or persistent psychological distress. By breaking the cycle of dwelling on past or future thoughts, we allow this pent up energy to be released and dissipated, which can be immensely liberating and healing. In addition, each time we successfully bring ourselves back to the present moment, we strengthen our mental faculties. Like a muscle that grows stronger with exercise, our ability to remain present and mindful improves with practice. This enhanced mental strength allows us to become more resilient against the habitual pull of past, oriented, or future focused thinking, enabling us to stay more grounded in the present. Moreover, this practice of returning to the present moment can also deepen our connection with our surroundings and with ourselves. It encourages a heightened state of awareness and appreciation for the nuances of our current experience. The sights, sounds, and sensations that we often overlook when our minds are elsewhere. This heightened awareness can lead to a richer, more engaged experience of life. Additionally, routinely redirecting our focus to the present moment can have a cumulative effect on our overall well being. As we become more adept at this practice, we may find that periods of stress, anxiety, or emotional upheaval become less frequent and less intense. We develop a greater capacity for emotional regulation and a more balanced perspective on life's challenges. Our body's tendency to crave familiar emotions, such as anger during a daily commute or anxiety in response to work-related stress, is a complex phenomenon rooted in the brain's wiring. These emotions, though unpleasant, can become addictive because they trigger the release of certain chemicals in the brain, creating a feedback loop that the body learns to anticipate and even seek out. Recognizing this pattern, that the brain is essentially seeking out these emotions due to their addictive qualities, is an important realization in the journey towards personal transformation. Understanding this concept involves acknowledging that emotions are not just fleeting responses, but can become entrenched patterns based on repeated exposure and reinforcement. For instance, if someone consistently reacts to traffic with anger, their brain starts to associate the situation, traffic, with the emotional response, anger, creating a habitual reaction. This habitual reaction is reinforced every time the scenario occurs, strengthening the neural pathways associated with that emotion. Choosing not to engage with these habitual emotional responses requires a conscious effort to break the cycle. It involves identifying situations that typically trigger these emotions and preparing to respond differently. For instance, if morning traffic usually provokes anger, one might choose to listen to calming music or an engaging podcast during the commute as a way to alter the typical response pattern. Moreover, breaking away from these addictive emotional patterns often involves replacing them with healthier alternatives. Instead of allowing anger or frustration to take hold, One might focus on cultivating feelings of calm or neutrality. This could involve deep breathing exercises, mindfulness practices, or simply shifting one's focus to more positive or constructive thoughts. This process also includes developing a greater understanding of why certain emotions feel addictive. Often, these emotions provide a temporary sense of release or distraction from underlying issues. For example, anger might momentarily make someone feel powerful and in control, masking feelings of helplessness or vulnerability. Recognizing these underlying needs is crucial for finding healthier ways to address them. Additionally, reframing our perspective on these emotions can be helpful. Viewing them not as inherent parts of our personality, but as learned responses that can be unlearned and replaced is empowering. It underscores the fact that we have the agency to change how we react to situations and that our emotional responses are not fixed. It is also important to practice patience and self compassion during this process. Changing deeply ingrained emotional habits is challenging and doesn't happen overnight. There will be moments of relapse into old patterns, but each attempt to break the cycle, regardless of its immediate success, is a step forward in the journey of personal transformation. Recognizing that our body often craves familiar but unhealthy emotions due to their addictive qualities is crucial in personal growth. Breaking this cycle involves understanding the nature of these emotional responses, consciously choosing not to engage with them, finding healthier emotional alternatives, exploring the underlying reasons for these emotions, reframing our perspective, and practicing patience and self compassion. This comprehensive approach is key to transforming our emotional landscape and achieving a more balanced and healthy emotional state.